Hey everybody, this is Professor Jason Snart. I'm your instructor for English 1102 Online here. Welcome to the class. I'm just doing this quick little video. Welcome to say hi, sort of introduce myself, and also maybe give you some strategies for success in the class, and maybe point to a few things in our course that will help you get sort of situated, oriented, feel a little comfortable in terms of just basic navigation, like how our class works. So I'm going to do most of my looking at my screen here. So I'm in our course. You'll see that this video shows up in the announcements area. There was an earlier, sort of an early welcome when I first opened the class before the term officially started, which was today, or which is today, Wednesday, January 14th. So I do a number of announcements throughout the term, and they'll all show up, or video announcements, they'll all show up in the announcements area here. So most of what you'll find is that the announcements just sort of remind you of things that are going on in the class, whether it's due dates, things that we're working on, basic sort of ideas that we've covered, readings that we're doing, whatever. But it'll always be sort of duplicating what's already in the course. Hopefully, in a helpful way, reminding you or pointing out things or highlighting particular things. But these aren't designed to be like video lectures of class content. So it's not like you would have to watch this to get something that wasn't otherwise in the class. It is, though, important to watch these because they are a little bit like the way that a teacher might start a class by reminding people of what's due, what we're working on, what readings we're doing, and that kind of stuff. So it's important to have this kind of contact, but again, it's not like I'll be presenting things here that aren't also within our course itself. Okay, so there's a couple of things that are really important to me as far as an online course goes, and it really goes for any of the online courses I teach, but maybe particularly the writing course like this. The first of those is to make sure that the course is set up so that it's as user-friendly as possible. There's probably no perfect course that's just set up so everybody can, it makes just sense, immediately to every single person. But I've tried to make it as what I call transparent as possible. In other words, you don't have to, hopefully, spend a lot of time figuring out where stuff is, when's it due, what am I supposed to be working on, what are the expectations, and all that kind of stuff. So you'll notice that whenever you log into our course, it always comes to the announcements page. So that's the first thing that you would do is like watch a new announcement or read text or whatever happens to be there. Be sure you keep up with those. I recommend logging in every day, honestly, especially for an 8-week term course like ours, so everything is condensed. So you're sort of logging in every day. There might be new announcements, whatever's going on. It's good to just check in like that. You'll notice in our course menu, at least for now, things will change as we move through the course a little bit. There's an orientation, which says read me first, and again, after you've watched this video, hopefully you're getting in there to watch the orientation video. It sort of walks you through how our course works. There's tips on being a successful online learner, and there's an orientation quiz. Minimal points, but hey, it should be really easy. And again, it shows me that you've taken the time to think about, okay, what's it going to take to be successful online? Not even particular to this course really, but to any online course. And it's pretty common sense stuff. Time management, reading things carefully, stuff you probably already know. The theory of that's easier than the practice of it, I know. The next thing in our list is a link to our student home pages, and that is an assignment that you'll find in Unit 1, so I won't spend too much time on that just yet. Next is a link to our syllabus, which is really a collection of folders with everything you could expect on a paper syllabus, but we don't have a paper syllabus since we're digital here. Course goals and objectives, the textbook that we use, how to get a library card, which you will probably need, almost 100% sure of that. Basic things like plagiarism, the withdrawal policy, all of that kind of policy stuff. I'm not going to go through it here, but it's really important that you take a glance at that so you're aware of what is the plagiarism policy. Although it won't affect you, right? What's the withdrawal policy? Can you take an incomplete? You can't. So it's useful to know that stuff going in. Not something that, you know, you have to memorize or whatever, but good to just take a little glance at it. And then we get to sort of the heart of our course, these two links here, the units, where all our work is, and the due dates, when that work is due. So if I look at the units, you'll notice that they're numbered 1 through, I guess, 11 it works out for our 8-week course. And each of the units will have like a discussion board assignment or a writing assignment or a whatever. We use the discussion board a lot, so there's lots of sort of class interaction. Many of the units, like Unit 1, has not only like one thing to do, but a couple of different things to do. So you'll notice the first assignment is that homepage that I talked about. Again, the course is set up to sort of walk you through what buttons do I click, what do I look for. So as long as you're reading carefully and taking time, hopefully it is, like I said at the outset, user-friendly. You're not spending a whole bunch of time just figuring out, like, technically how is this thing supposed to be working. You know, people get frustrated with that. I get frustrated too when I use a website that doesn't work or when I'm trying to follow directions that are impossible to follow. So your work suffers not because you can't do the work, but just because that interface is like really clunky and things are hidden and whatever. Technically, right, in terms of like where to click what, I've really tried to make it as user-friendly as possible. So there's that homepage assignment. You're introducing yourself and giving us a picture of yourself. And then another assignment in Unit 1 is the discussion board. It's another way of introducing yourself, so it kind of duplicates that homepage assignment a little bit. But it's really important to me to use the discussion board right off the bat. It's going to be a tool we use throughout our class. Some of you may not have used it before, so it's important to have an opportunity right at the start in a fairly informal, kind of low-stakes environment to get used to how it works, how to create a post, how to reply to others, and all that kind of stuff. Of course, again, it's important in terms of being successful to read directions carefully. So like for this discussion board, you're not just posting your own post, like here's me, but you're also responding to other classmates. So again, the grading is, especially for something like this, not really about the quality of the writing. Like I don't mark off for grammar unless it's, you know, unreadable basically, but more for investment of time and effort. Have you made the effort to post something interesting about yourself? And even more importantly for something like this, have you made the effort to read other posts and respond in some meaningful way, not just like, hey, or yeah, or, you know, something that's really limited like that, but really try to engage just like you would in a conversation. If you were talking face-to-face with somebody and they said, oh, I went to such and such high school and I plan to go into nursing and I probably am going to transfer to this place and my favorite hobby is ultimate frisbee, and your response was, yeah. Not a great conversation, right? So we try to duplicate as much as we can that sort of dynamic and energetic give and take of a real conversation, especially in a discussion board like this that is pretty informal. There's no like sort of writing assignment in the sense of our composition class attached to this. Okay, but the bigger point then for Unit 1 is notice that there's not just one thing to do, but two, and a little survey that I've set up that's really asking you about how you think or what you think of an online class. What are the expectations? Do you feel good about doing it, ready to do it? Do you have a computer and internet and all that stuff? Are you nervous about things? It's ungraded, but I think it's important for me to get sort of that feedback right off the bat too. You'll also remember that the orientation piece has that little quiz that I'd mentioned. So right off the bat, you have multiple things to do in Unit 1, in addition to that brief orientation quiz. So to go to my original point then, we move quickly in the 8-week format, so I'm really concerned to make the class as easily navigable as possible, user-friendly, so you're not spending that precious time figuring out, okay, where do I click, where do I go, where was that thing again? Or you're missing work because it's off in a whole different section of the course. I've tried to really collect it here and make it accessible for you. So again, Unit 1, and then you just follow the due date. So our first due date is Friday, January 16th, which is right around the corner. So we move quickly in the 8-week format and at the first part of our course as we get the ball rolling, primarily so that when we get into those longer essay assignments, you have the maximum time to work on those. Those are the big point assignments, the ones that often will just take longer because there's more involved. So we really do move quickly here at the front end in order to give us a little bit more time as we get sort of halfway and then to the back half of our course. So it's really important to, you know, manage your time and really stay on top of things, and understand immediately or sort of right off the bat, right, how the units and the due dates coordinate. It's hopefully pretty simple and straightforward, but again, sometimes, you know, because I designed it and I've used it so many times, it's obvious to me, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily obvious to every other user out there. Okay, everything else in our course menu then, in terms of the course calendar, discussion boards, the grading, my contact, Blackboard help, is really support mechanisms or support resources for what we're doing within the units, whether you need to contact me, get Blackboard help, contact the library, whatever it might be. You'll notice that the discussion boards link takes you directly to our whole list of discussion boards, but you can also find those within each individual unit. So the discussion boards link is really sort of a duplicate. It's like another road that takes you sort of to the same place. I would strongly encourage that you do everything sort of through the units so that you know where you're at, what you're working on, and of course when it's due. Okay, so that's kind of a lot to say. The other comment that I wanted to make then, so making the course user-friendly is one of my two major concerns in terms of like building and then delivering or teaching an online course. The other part is to provide you with a sense that you're really part of a class, that you're part of a class community, that you're here with other students and with me as an actual person in an office, you know, not wearing pajamas or whatever the case might be. But often online, in some instances, unfortunately I would say, it can feel like a very kind of isolated experience. You read some static stuff online and you send an essay off or do a quiz or whatever, and it sort of goes into the void and you get a grade back, and it's just a sort of uninspired experience. I'm much more interested, and the video thing that I do here is sort of evidence of that, of making it I'm not trying to duplicate the face-to-face, but I'm certainly trying to involve that sense of I'm a real person, I'm interested in what you're doing in the class, I'm here to help, I'm here to guide, I'm accessible, there's other students in the class that you'll be communicating with and depending on in some ways. And it's important to meet those people, which is again why one of the very first things we do in the introductions unit is you introduce yourself, but with a picture, so we can sort of see like who's in the class, what are the hobbies that people have, what are the career interests or transfer interests or whatever. It's actually sort of fun to see how many different kinds of connections there are between the various people in our class that have nothing to do with, you know, English 1102. People went to the same high school, live in the same town, have friends, relatives that work at the same place or that went to COD or that whatever, you know, interesting ways that people are connected. So I'm really concerned that people feel sort of like plugged in or engaged, or a sense of sort of bonding with people in a class, just like you would in a classroom experience, that you're not just out there isolated working alone at a computer sending stuff off into the ether and then you just get a grade sort of out of nowhere. That's not a very fulfilling experience and not usually a good way to learn. It's not fulfilling for you, but it's also not for me either. So I'm certainly interested in you know, having a good experience teaching the class, and part of that again is really developing that sense of us as a class, as a community that's working together. So you'll notice that before we get into any of the like composition or research or any of that other stuff that we'll get into, I'm most concerned with you feeling comfortable in terms of just the orientation, the layout, how does the class work, and also making an effort for us to sort of connect, to cohere as a class. All right, so that's sort of where we're at. I will do these video check-ins on a pretty regular basis, so be sure you're logging into Blackboard and keeping up with these and with the work within the units. And of course, if you have questions, concerns, if you notice a typo or something that just doesn't work right in the course, be sure to be in touch with me right away, because I'll want to fix that as soon as I can if possible, or help you through a technical problem if you end up having one. So it's really important to, as part of that class community thing, to really feel connected to me. Like, you can send me an email and I'll probably get back to you right away. Yeah, I probably check my email too much, but as an online teacher, that's kind of what you got to do. Okay, so I look forward to meeting everybody virtually as we get into Unit 1, and I will talk to everybody soon.